Kai lets out a chuckle as soon as the doors behind him shut.
All right, Randy, you can come up.
Randy enters through the bottom stairwell and climbs up to meet Kai.
Everything go well?
That's affirmative. Connor agreed to help out. So long as he doesn't screw up, the baseball club will have their precious trading cards back and answer to me.
I can't say I ever viewed those club swinging losers as important.
Oh, but they are, my bronze-centric friend. After the bait club, they bring in the second most trophies for the school, with football right at their heels.
He says as he grandiosely gestures to Randy. I'm not sure grandiosely is a word, and grandiosely is a word.
To control the school, you need to control the clubs. To control the clubs, have the ears of their presidents. It's what the student council has tried for so long, and I'm doing it better than them.
You sure Randy or Jeremy won't catch on to what we're doing?
So long as we're careful and we don't step too hard on his friend's toes. Though it's only a matter of time before I'll get to own his ass too. Also, what's even juicier, not juicier, juicer. If this all works out, I'll also have the vice president of the debate club indebted to me.
Can Connor really get into that desk? Aren't we setting him up for failure?
Who cares? That's going to be Connor's problem. He's a smart guy. I'm sure he'll come up with something. It does help that the baseball club is desperate to get their stuff back. They're at the point where they'll turn to just about anyone. Gotta give credit to Victor for doing his homework on this one.
As if on cue, the stairwell doors open and Victor enters, letting the doors shut behind him.
Well, speak of the devil.
I've got news. He says as looks nervously at both Kai and Randy. As he looks...
Good or bad, I can never tell with that dulcet tone of yours.
Bad. Kai lets out a sigh as Randy leans against the wall.
Way to ruin my good mood. What is it?
I just overheard that fat fuck talking to goth whore.
Which one, Phillips?
Victor simply nods. Kai lets out a sigh.
Well, I guess it was too much to hope for them to stay on bad terms forever. What were they talking about?
Mostly sheer groveling for forgiveness, but I did hear him bring up Charlotte's name. I didn't get too much context, though. The hallway was getting pretty loud by that point.
Shit!
Kai throws up his hands as he begins pacing the stairwell.
Well, there goes our plan to keep them away from each other.
How do we want to play this?
For a minute, Kai doesn't answer. Instead, he wordlessly continues pacing back and forth. Eventually, Kai stops his pacing in the middle between Victor and Randy and lets out a sigh.
For now, nothing. Just try to monitor them and see if we can steer them away from each other. It's possible the rumors did their work, and if Charlotte meets them, she decides this endeavor is no longer worth it. But if she pulls through on it, I suspect she may seek me out at some point.
You really think she'd confront you?
I don't think she wants to, but if she's trying to be diligent in her little investigation, she'll interview her suspect. If she tries to initiate contact with either of you, send her to me immediately.
Victor silently nods. Randy, on the other hand, steps forward.
Kai, why not just seek her out now? Let's just get this over with and move on.
If we do, then that'll just look bad on me. Besides, I want her to approach me.
What difference would it make? We know she's at least talked to Shiro. She obviously already views you as a suspect.
Yes, I know, but I don't want to risk drawing attention to myself, nor do I want to approach her on her terms. Just trust me on this. I know what I'm doing.
This is pretty personal for you. Are you going to be up for it?
Truth to be told,
You don't need to.
this was a long time coming. I always knew she and I weren't through completely yet. If and when she does approach me, she'll be begging for forgiveness.
Lunchtime has arrived for the students of St. Salvator High. The cafeteria quickly becomes populated with students forming lines to get their food or sitting down at the many tables throughout the room. Charlotte enters through the main doors and walks to the far corner of the cafeteria along the wall, opposite to where she had sat with Monica the other day. You don't need that comma. There she sees two girls sitting at the furthest table away from the middle of the room, the girls she had been looking for. This is a sentence fragment, and you need like a semicolon here or a comma, either way. As far as she could tell, the reputation about their attire precedes them. P-R-E-C-E-D-E-D-E-S. She clutches her lunchbox tightly, saying a silent prayer to herself, and resumes walking towards the table. As she gets closer to the table, the two girls come into clearer focus. The rumors seems to have described them perfectly. If it wasn't for the urgency to talk to them, she probably wouldn't have approached them in any other setting. They're just so provocative. The sight of it is enough to make her stomach churn. The dark colors, the lewdness they're displaying without any apparent care in the world. It's an affront to decency itself. What if she's seen hanging around them? What would people think? Maybe she shouldn't be doing this. She briefly stops in her tracks. Maybe Shiro has the wrong idea about them. She thinks to herself as she looks back at the girls, who are happily chatting away as they eat their lunch. You know, earlier in this series, they had times where, like, their inner thoughts were italicized, and it was really helpful because then I could distinguish the narration from the inner thoughts. And considering this isn't, like, always from the same... Just italicize it, guys. It really helped. Please do it. She thinks to herself as she looks back at the girls, who are happily chatting away as they eat their lunch. Charlotte takes a deep breath, recalling her earlier talk with Shiro.
I trust Shiro.
She reasons with herself.
Shiro trusts them. They've been friends for at least a year. And they seem to be getting along with each other well enough.
Is there another word? No. I thought I saw it continuing.
Well, maybe they can't be so bad. And if
she doesn't talk to them, I might never know the... Wait. Now this is one where it's the narration flowing into an inner thought. Come on, man. And if she doesn't talk to them,
I might never know the full story.
Charlotte resumes walking. Once Charlotte finally approaches the table, she clears her voice.
Excuse me. Are you Kayla and Ruby?
Yup, Charlotte, right?
Yes, thank you for agreeing to meet with me.
No biggie.
Nice to meet you, Charlotte,
she says, standing up to offer her a handshake. Charlotte briefly stares at Ruby's hand before slowly sinking into her seat. Kayla and Ruby share an awkward look with each other as Ruby sits back down.
Okay, then. Excuse my manners, I'm just a little nervous, that's all.
Oh, it's no problem.
An awkward silence briefly follows until Kayla speaks up.
So,
Shiro told me you wanted to talk to us about the anime club. Yes, I did.
Charlotte says as she slowly puts her belongings on the table and takes out the notepad she's been using for her investigation.
I heard from someone that each of you had talked to Michael before he left the club about Shiro.
We did, yeah. Why is that important?
I'm trying to piece together what was going on inside Michael's head during certain points in time to see if it really was a decision that he made all on his own, or if outside factors were at play.
Well, what outside factors would be at play?
Kai and him trying to protect a girl he was interested in. Would either of you happen to know anything about that?
Kayla and Ruby exchange a look.
Well, we don't know anything about a girl. We do know that he's had to deal with Kai since the first day of school. At first, it seemed like Kai was just trying to keep Michael away from Shiro. Then once he joined our club, Kai tried getting him to leave and stop talking to Shiro. He kept peddling the whole poem thing to use that as a wedge between them. Eventually, it worked.
Yes, Shiro did mention that he had come to complain about the whole thing to you guys because Michael kept hearing about the rumors.
I know this is a bit off topic, but did you know?
Know what?
About the whole poem thing, or what Shiro actually did. Did he lie to you like he lied to us?
Well,
Charlotte leans back into the seat.
I think he did at some point. He must have. You don't remember? Yeah, I can't remember for sure.
How can you not remember something like that?
My memory works in a certain way. Let's just say I was in a bad headspace for most of last year, and truthfully I remember very little. It was just all kind of a blur to me. I remember very little of the whole fiasco, but I remember I did try helping Shiro at one point. I believe I was consoling him. That's all I can really remember.
So, you have amnesia?
Ruby glares at Kayla, who returns a confused look to her. Charlotte nervously laughs in an effort to break the tension.
Not exactly. It's more complicated than just that, and it's a whole other story.
Got you. Sorry if I was a little too forward there.
No, you're fine. It's just not something someone asks me about often.
I get you.
Right. So, back on topic. What did he ask you to? Who talked to him first?
I did. It was the day he was initiated.
He had already had a run-in with Kai on the first day by that point, and I guess he had been hearing things about Shiro since then, Shiro since then, so he pulled me aside to ask me about the rumors.
Charlotte quickly jots down what Ruby is telling her, her pencil moving at lightning-fast speed in an attempt to record her word for word.
Got you, and what did you tell him?
Well, I just told him that, there was some truth to the whole poem thing, and that Shiro did write some poems in his spare time. End of statement. I remember him showing me a few poems he wrote about Monica.
Yeah, that was a whole long sentence. Sorry.
Nothing remarkable stood out to me, though. I remember it seeming innocent enough, though I doubt Shiro would have ever shown it to Monica. Right. And I just told him I didn't think he wrote that poem. I know that Kayla disagrees with me on this.
She says as she takes a sip from her drink.
Does she not?
Charlotte's eyes twinkle with intrigue as she looks back up from her notepad.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. I just had a feeling deep down that when that all happened last year, Shiro wasn't entirely being truthful. I did give him the benefit of the doubt at the time, though. His whole strategy of trying to deny everything, even that he had feelings for that girl when it was painfully obvious to everyone that he did, is what tipped me off. Not to mention I remember him showing me some of his more edgy poems. There was nothing about Monica, but I remember a few similarities. Still, I just tried to ignore it and pressed on with defending him. But when he finally spilled the beans, I was still shocked because I was hoping he was telling the truth all along. So I just told Michael what I thought, that Shiro did write it and was just trying to save face. I guess I ended up being half right.
How did he take it?
He just thanked me and moved on.
Same here.
I'm sure it played a factor in his decision, to be honest with you. Michael knew that we were friends with Shiro for a while, so it didn't make sense that he'd approach us to find out more about him. But I still did my best to defend Shiro's name to Michael. I didn't really say anything negative about him, other than what I thought about the poem.
Yeah, same here. I see.
Charlotte says as she finishes jotting down her notes. Well,
it seems to me at the time that he had talked to you, he was beginning to have serious doubts about being friends with Shiro. I do think Kayla's conversation, a second run-in with Kai, and Michael's talk with Jeremy are what sealed it.
Kayla's and Ruby's jaws drop.
Wait, are you trying to pin this on me?
Michael talked to Jeremy. No, I'm not trying to blame you for this, Kayla, and yes, he did. Let me explain the timeline as I've constructed it. Shiro and Michael meet on the first day of school. Kai runs into them, tells Michael about the whole poem thing, and plenty of other unflattering things. Michael goes back to Shiro and he denies everything. About a week passes and Michael approaches Adrian and Monica about the rumor Kai spoke of. Adrian and Monica confirm it, without saying Monica was the victim of the poem scandal. Michael then speaks to Ruby on his initiation day. The two also had a hangout. Shiro told me he might have accidentally made Michael uncomfortable with the comment he made about his mom.
What did he say?
Something about her being hot.
Oh, Shiro, you stupid mongrel.
Kayla facepalms as Ruby shakes her head.
Then Shiro talked to Kayla, had his second run-in with Kai, who reiterated his demands and gave him an ultimatum. Presumably during this time, he was also threatening Michael's potential love interest. Then, the following day, he spoke with Sayori, who urged him to stay in the club but recommended he speak to Jeremy. Then he spoke with Jeremy, who convinced him to pull the trigger. I also want to point out there's one unknown factor that I likely won't be able to figure out. How did Michael actually view Shiro and the anime club? I doubt he'd be willing to speak with me again about all this, but from the looks of things, he seems to enjoy spending time with you guys up until Kai was following up on his threats. That's around the time he decided to look for an out. So it seems to me Michael was just looking for confirmation bias because you decided he either was never all that attached to begin with, and Kai was just a prod to make him fall through on leaving, or he calculated that he had no benefit in sticking around. That's what I have.
Kayla and Ruby sit in stunned silence.
Yeah, I worked pretty hard on this,
she says, smiling to herself.
Clearly you did. Thank you. Oh, it's no problem.
So why did Michael talk to that scumbag Jeremy?
Sayori told me that Michael was skeptical of going to the principal rankin because Kai had been reported before and nothing apparently happened to him. So he wanted to go somewhere where he thought his problems could be resolved. You don't need the second where. Sayori recommended Jeremy because she thought highly of him and their friendship.
Ruby lets out a sigh.
I guess that's where he learned that we were once in the art club.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how he found out about that. I'll be honest, it's been so long I even forgot I was in that club.
Ruby lets out a chuckle.
I like to forget that I was in that club. I was so toxic thanks to Anna's leadership. She's still there, sadly. Thankfully, this is her last year running the club before she graduates.
Okay. Oh wait, yeah, I heard that in the wrong voice. My bad. It was Ruby.
Yeah. But back to Jeremy. He's a smooth talker. I could see him telling Michael exactly what he wanted to hear and convinced him to leave us. What was your guys' relationship with Jeremy like? I never trusted him. He seemed less than enthused to sign off on our club's renewal form on the first day.
Forum? Just forum. Don't need you.
But this year it's been respectable. Though he and I haven't always gotten along in the past.
Wait, hold on a second. I've never... Oh, I skipped this and. Never mind. It's fine.
Though he and I haven't always gotten along in the past. Could you expand upon that? I had a few classes with Jeremy last year, and any time we did group work, he always tried to take charge and bossed people around because he was our class rep. I got sick of his shit pretty quick.
Charlotte shifts uncomfortably in her seat.
Right. Anyways, in the few student senate meetings that I attended, Jeremy kind of seemed dismissive or uninterested in whatever I had to say. I don't think he ever took me seriously. I don't know if he actually hates me or he's butthurt that I wasn't his slave in class. Otherwise, we've been nice to each other, even though it felt like kind of fake coming from him. Though that said, that was the reaction I got from half the people there anyway. Interesting you say that. I remember that during his little inauguration speech on the first day, that he was heaping praise on what he saw as the constructive clubs. He name-dropped essentially almost every club except for a few. Coincidentally, all those clubs that weren't name-dropped have since disbanded for various reasons. Now that you mention it, I thought that part of his speech was a little weird. I did pick up on that, and from what I know about him, he is rather opinionated about certain things once you get behind his mask. That would explain why I felt scummy vibes from him. I remember around Caitlin, I just felt like I wasn't welcomed. Like she'd rather be anywhere else but talking to me. Yeah, I remember her visits to the anime club were always off-putting. Especially with her telling Emily how to do things. That bitch had a lot of nerve.
Charlotte nervously flips her hair. Ruby, seeing this, clears her voice apologetically.
Do you think Sayori was in on this effort to take down our club? No, I think she just made a mistake. I think it was pure coincidence that Michael found himself at Jeremy's doorstep. But I think for some reason he wanted your club gone. I couldn't say why though, but if I had to guess, I think it was to fit his own worldview, or he's making some power play. Yeah, but I doubt he'd ever admit to anything. Right. That's why I have to talk to Guy.
A heavy silence sweeps over the lunch table, with Kayla and Ruby looking on nervously at Charlotte.
Are you sure? I have to. He's really the only lead left. What he tells me and how he says it might be enough to put this to bed for good. Talking to Kai is a bad idea. I doubt he'll tell you anything either. Perhaps not. I still think a discussion with him would be more fruitful than one with Jeremy. Besides, he already knows I'm looking into this. And then what makes you say he'll tell you anything?
You mean, what makes you sure he'll tell you anything?
He and I have some history. Personal history. Well, who doesn't? It's more intimate. Oh,
Ruby says, looking on curiously.
Shiro never told you, did he? Shiro's made a habit of not telling us things recently, so no. He has mentioned you a few times, though. I see. It's not a story I like to remember. You don't have to tell us if you don't want to. No, you need to hear this. Well, I went to middle school with Kai, just as you two did. I've known Shiro since at least the 3rd grade when we were finally put into the same class together. I met Kai in 6th grade, and he and I actually got along pretty well. He and I became close, though not as close as I was with Shiro. Then at some point he started fighting with Shiro over some stupid things, and the feud dragged on into 7th and 8th grade. In the 8th grade, I did something that I regret.
She forces out, she forces out as her voice starts to break. What do you mean forces out?
What did you do? I